Well, hello, how are you doing?
Okay. I'm here.
I think I'm going to make it.
Well,
I think I'm going to make it.
that's good.
Trying to jinx myself and spill my drink all over my hands, so I do have to have a backup set of
Right hands.
hands and help. And maybe sweats and look,
Yeah, that'll be more comfortable.
wash the last minute items that came in.
Yeah.
Here's the report from Leah's,
Oh, good.
okay? And then Bob Stanley sent in his little report.
Okay.
So two copies of it. Pass out with so many pages.
Okay.
Got that one in one day and pass out and pass between the board. And all in the packet. I don't know. We have one item off the agenda. You remember some time ago we talked about who's problems with the key. Who's not doing it. I hate truths.
It's the word, right?
I'm sorry.
My email says 6:45. 5:45, sorry.
Oh, that's the meeting time I put on the constant contact. But our meeting will start at 6. I just like to get it in a little early so people can get on. I mean, right now, Rick Brown goes on and then. I've got them unmuted, so if they want to talk, they can.
No, I wouldn't be sitting on my kids for this. I didn't have. I hope we won't be here that long. Well, I'm gonna get about 2 seconds.
There's a lot of stuff, but. Oh, the Crawfords.
Good.
Yeah. Good picture. I don't think she's been here today. Man. How's it going for your life? Isn't this the opening review? You gotta steal something from that DOT out there.
Yeah.
Building a house.
Trouble.
Open block,
It's not the use.
At Flex Track, rebuild the street.
Sudden left turn. Widening it.
That's the frightening road. Tornado. Pile the
The original plan was awful and the redo was skeptical.
The water is off. This is all that was made. Victor Nelson Sr. His home floated away as the remnants of Tyson's long battered Alaska's coast. More than 50% other people from these remote indigenous communities also came to the house. More roads and more storms on the way. Residents of these areas shelters. But the next big worst news is that winter is right around the corner. Hi, how are you? It's probably has that because it's certainly you don't want to jackpot and it's fly you want. As much as 10 trillion coins. If you're lucky, you can win over the mini jackpot and it's 20 cents. Trust it, let us play really good now. Trust it, you're going to love it. It's up a ladder and a fire children and shot. The area around the areas of dogs look like she's right now getting focused in. So look at that. That's from each episode. From the country up, breast control, she can still up and all that. So. That's the goal. That's a good idea.
I did make a lot of copies tonight, so if you kind of like share, I can go on one line, I just, I got 3 more left here. If anyone need one, there's one. No, you want to do it, I also want to.
highway was still shut down early Wednesday. Yeah, this is the other number.
We haven't seen
Mortgage
the regular
stuff. Virginia.
stuff.
The huge entrepreneurs builders, they're not margin.
Yeah, she comes in helpfully.
Market me.
Everyone's, yeah, she's still out there for you, was for a dupe. It's, why is it important? In court, it's in there, so.
You make sure.
God, we haven't seen him in the street, that's what they.
New
You're
Jersey.
seeing them, huh?
The northeastern turn down, right?
Right. The same.
Roads disappeared and power boulevards vanished. A storm surge was recorded nearby. What do you want? You did it right. Yes, I thought it was this.
It was a nice discussion. It's going to be on, some pictures that we have at our elevator. Towers. Something that's taking place that we believe is. The roofers when they were taking off the old roof. But, I have, get this passed around, this is a report from the company that we hired to verify. What we see is correct in that the roofer is responsible. And this is from a consultant. His ideas about it, but we feel we've got a very strong case that it was the roofers that did it because with this I worked in the roof being pulled off during construction. It's because there was no issue on a couple of these key points that we have. Total issues. That makes it takes us fun for really. I think that's in the UES report. I thought, I haven't heard it over in detail, but that's what we talked about on the phone, it's in yes, that we covered. We got 2 more minutes, and I don't. Oh, sure. Lot covered tonight, so we're gonna try to make it kind of quick, but you know, there's a lot of detail too, so we're gonna hopefully strike the right pace. We won't be here till midnight, but we'll get things covered. So we do have proof of notice, and we have form of officers. We have 100% of our officers tonight. Good. And everybody should have in their packet, the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or alterations or anything? Have a second? Vote.
Aye. All unanimous.
Unanimous. All the meeting, the previous minutes have been accepted. And we have a
vision statement. Thanks, Rick.
Second, so Wayne made the motion, seconded by John, all in favor.
Yeah. So, our vision at Bellair is to cultivate an environment where every homeowner feels a sense of pride in their residence, fostering a neighborhood where people know each other, support one another, and join in community. To provide management and directors that ensure our residents have questions and concerns acted upon promptly, managing upkeep and safety issues that increase property values, with every member working together for the good of the entire community. So, that's our goal. Good one. It is. Do we have any, new owners here, people who want to come? Do you like to stand up and introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Yes. Hi, glad to have you.
Me too. Well,
Very glad.
like two truths for the day or anything?
Well, if you're the last, you have to sing a song.
Oh, yeah. Kevin from 421.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start with the old business. And I'm gonna try to just stick to the list, because there's lots of other stuff to talk about too, but we'll start there. So, Wayne, would you like to do a report on gutters roof issues?
Yeah, we've had, over the past few weeks, we've had representatives from the roofing company that did the installation out, as well as the company that did all the gutters and such. We found, since we had that big storm, rainstorm a few weeks back, we got to see where there were some leaks in the connections of the gutters, where the old ones were put up against the new ones. So there's areas where they haven't been sealed properly. We also had one blow off of the elevator shaft on top of this building. We've had them come back and they are working on putting all of the gutters, all the seams properly sealed throughout where every new gutter is. And they're also going to, on a separate note, I mean, this will be an expense to us, they have to fix the things that were not proper on the new gutters. But on the old gutter, because there are still some leaks on other areas where they didn't have to put new gutters because it wasn't exactly at the new roof level, they're going to come back and fix all the gutters within the next month. I hope, well, I'm hoping a couple of weeks, but I'll give it a month. We should be leak-free from gutters anywhere. There shouldn't be any water dripping on anybody's porch, on anybody's head, on anything, because they're going to be fixed. There were some other issues that we thought we had with the roof, and they came out and did inspections, and we don't have any leakage from the roof. We still have leakage in some of the elevator shafts, as you can see the pockets of water down the side, but that's going to be taken care of. It's not actually leakage from the gutter or the roof. It's just that when water comes down, we have this elastic type paint on all the shafts. It's absorbing or getting behind the paint, and it's pushing out pockets of water. So every time it rains, it looks like a full channel out there up on the side of the shaft. That's going to be ground punctured, peeled off, sanded, and the whole shaft will be repainted. Did I miss something on the roof? So,
Responsibility that we're looking for on the, how they took the old roof off of the damage to the building.
okay, well, all right. So on the responsibility lands on my shoulders. I get to watch when the guys tear the roof off. And during the process, I took many pictures. And when they took the roof off, they used crowbars, long crowbars, probably 6-foot crowbars. And I would watch them plow into the roof and then crank it down and lift off the roof. And there was a lot of work. These guys were working hard. However, when you're using the crowbar and you're taking the roof off the elevator shafts, you're doing the same thing. You're putting the crowbar underneath the lip and yanking it up. And when you're yanking it up, if the roof is here and this is the shaft and the roof overhangs here, you put the crowbar under and you lift up and peel the roof back all the way around so they can just pop it off. All of a sudden, we have 3 elevator shafts that have broken corners where the cement has been damaged. They thought it was an act of God or that there was lightning striking. I mean, that was a possible example. It must have had lightning hit it, and that they only thought it was on one. Well, it was on all 3. And then they said, well, we may have had it there before we did this, because if it was something we did, we'd have, fixed it. I ironically was across the street on November 24th of last year in the tower across the street, taking a picture of our place. And we didn't have any elevator cracks at that point in time. So unless this was an act of God between November 24th and when they started working on the roof at the beginning of the year, we had to have 3 lightning strikes all on towers, and it doesn't count. In other words, it's my belief that this was done in the process of removing the old roof. What's the big deal? Who's going to pay to fix it? I think we have enough proof in pictures and timed pictures, date and time, to show that no, this wasn't here. So they're having their experts come out and look at it. We had our expert come out and give an analysis on what it is. And when all was said and done, they were here about 2 weeks ago. We talked about it. I requested that we have this research done within 2 weeks, and I'd like to have the fix done by the end of the month. I don't know if the report to Mark has been yet. Their reports have been done, our reports have been done.
What I was just passing out, we just got today, the report from UAS.
Okay.
And, he's got 29 pages here with a whole bunch of photos. There's a copy. Here, you can look at this. And basically, it's a script with, it pretty much, it sides on us. I mean, we paid him, so it better side on us. We paid $2,700 for the UES inspection. UES is the same company that did our milestone inspection last year for any structural issues in the building. And they found none, gave us a very clean bill of health. So we hired them as our representative, if you will, that verifies that this damage was done not long ago, recent time period, which coincides with them pulling off the roof on the 3 elevator shipments.
Why are we paying all this? I mean, if it is found that they are responsible, should they reimburse us for us paying this $2,700 fee? I mean, that's just throwing out money for other people that have damage.
Let me see if I can put it in perspective here.
It makes sense.
Okay, I understand. I'm gone through things a little fast. So this meeting that Wayne is talking about took place. Basically, how things were left is that AWS, who did the roof, is hiring a paint and waterproofing contractor to do a report. What they feel is what caused these damages to the corners of the elevator. So he's got this company in his corner. So that we were going to hire a company in our corner, which is UES, to substantiate this. And even though $2,700 is expensive, to do this kind of repair with the kind of lifts that are required, you're looking at to rent a lift for a week or 2 weeks to get up 110 feet is going to be 12,000 now?
Yeah, well.
So-
Tools, and like, nobody really managed what's going on inside for what the big bad. You got to hire for $30,000 to look around and pay them, and that's. Like, you know,
Well, Tom was here, Tom was here, and the roofing company was here, and they both said it is found that they are responsible for it. They stand behind their work and they will take care of it. So we're just looking at both sides for the report. as people, you know. The problem, the cost of the report that we have, the $2,700. It's not chump change, but it's a small price to pay to have something on our side. So if they came back and said, "Hey, you know, our guy said it didn't happen," they wouldn't have had the pictures. We wouldn't have given them the pictures that I took that showed there was nothing wrong with the shafts.
I'm just rewriting part of our life, I guess, where I had all that. Taken care of. And all the projects that I managed. I just don't understand why they all fell out for that. Now, I'm not gonna do it, so I should talk really taking care.
No.
There was. I'm just gonna find that. We were all covered. And the council is super guys.
Well, one of the reasons.
Finding areas that are volunteering.
We're gonna ask for reimbursement. Yeah, I would expect that we would be reimbursed for everything that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, definitely, we would ask for reimbursement. Other questions on the road?
No, how they gonna fix, because it's coming backwards to what they did the originally together, and I think that. Still, there's almost a quarter of the inch. 6 floor people out like. Outside of their day, and I'm sure to talk to you about it. You can see there, and it's been there for. It's been years, more, I've been here for almost 2 years, and so. It's. Nothing that they did when they put in these new gutters, not that at all. And it was kind of a package, process, and I guess they're gonna fix it all. Right? That's the plan.
They're going to fix everything, the gutters are gonna be completely seamless, no pun intended. You know, they're gonna be where they belong. And seriously, it's gonna be watertight, you should have no leakage on inside. And that's where it's gonna.
I'm glad to see you guys.
When you are looking up at the gutters, you need to explain how they do this. And why you may see a half inch or an inch or whatever spacing between what you see at the bottom of the gutter. Is that when the gut, this is the gut. But at the roof edge, there's a flashing that goes over the gutter. So water coming off the roof goes into the gutter and not behind it. Now, we do know we have issues where water is getting behind the gutter. But the way most of this is put together is that the gutter is underneath the flashing over the roof. And so it isn't normally supposed to come down on that sitting there.
And we as a board we will have given them, they know where these things are, they're getting a punch list. We will then go back with them before signing.
Right,
We're gonna walk around, and the board's gonna take the responsibility of walking around with the punch list for every single one.
I just want to take a piece of the break when you took those pictures. That is really, lucky. The rest of the nobody even like that. That's very well done.
That's the nicest thing that's been said to me all day.
You didn't take pictures, so. You get this thing right now. That's what it was.
And,
I'm ending my report.
The pictures that our guy Sam from UES took, I hadn't seen his pictures until I just sat here and put through the pictures. he did a great job. So, we'll see how hard we have to fight to make it work out the way we're going to make it work out.
Pretty messes up there.
I'm estimating those repairs would be possible. I honestly don't know.
We did have one ballpark figure before we really got into this and knew that, you know, this is not our responsibility, before we realized that this was not Lightning Service, that this was something much more. And there was a cause and effect relationship we didn't see at the time now. But before we saw that, we did get a rough estimate. The cost of lifts and time and material to fix these, and basically it was around $35,000 to $40,000.
In relation to the 2,500 bucks that you're spending to,
No.
it's really a small dollar, so we can, yeah. That's fine.
Okay. Next, John. You wanna give us a report on what you have planned for the?
Yeah, the courtyard, coming up. We did find St. Potts. And they matched the color. And benches out there, same color. Before, I'm not sure when it'll be in. And as far as the lighting, if anybody has any questions on hurricane lighting and powering refrigerators, feel free to call me at any time. Or come over and see us, you and Tammy, and we can help you out. But and we're having, what is that, October 22nd, we're having the lighting demonstration in the courtyard. And I forget the company's name, but they will be out there, and she will set up temporary lighting. And she will display it, and we can be there, and we can tell her, we don't like this, we don't like that, we need more lights here, we need more lights there, or less, whatever. So we can all have our input on that night, on October 22nd. And everybody can be involved.
They're donating kitchen.
Kitchen, yes, kitchen.
And there was some discussion before about colored lights also.
She's gonna bring that, yes. And we can display anything we want.
Yeah, the color lights and somebody for the trees.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's to be, that's like there, but.
Keep bringing the popcorn.
That's what we're gonna do that one, Greenberg, for the last meeting.
thanks, John.
Just a quick question, what's this generator, what are you talking about? For.
About a week or two, I don't know, this past month, we had just a demonstration on, like, if a hurricane comes, like we've lost power here for 4 or 5 days at a time. And I ran over just a scenario where you can power your refrigerator and run your lighting over those 4 or 5 days.
You use the water.
Inverters, batteries, and your car,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just missed it. We're gonna hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. John's your guy.
Are we looking at any new decorator?
I think that should be on our, I think Mark asked if that should be on our list about discussion of people should have the individual generators.
I think they, but it's like, you could open up the garages, mark right on your own house or something.
Yeah.
Or,
On it.
and also, we should look at bigger colors on the garage.
Yes, and Mark is working on a system with a battery. He doesn't have to bring his generator, where he can just hook it up to the garages and open the garages with the spare battery.
Yeah, John donated an inverter to the condominium, and we just gotta have to get a new battery for it. Once we get the new battery, we'll charge it up, we're gonna give it a try if we can open up one garage door at a time.
Oh, great. Maybe it's on that.
All right, so the next thing on the list is about the chillers.
We had gotten 2 bids for, painting the chillers, top the roofs of the garages, from the north garages and south garages. What was spec'd in these was, epoxy type coatings. A special rust inhibitor, step 1, after it's all sprayed down. It was an AB epoxy that would seal off the rust. And the second coat was a primer with a different kind of epoxy that goes on top of it. And then the finish coat was also an epoxy. So epoxy is difficult to work with. When you're mixing an A and B part, it doesn't have a lot of useful life to it. You have to be careful of whatever you mix up you use, or it's a lot of waste. And it's not something that a normal paint type contractor does. You can call 10 paint contractors and they tell them, hey, I want to paint AC evaporators, condensers. And no, we don't do that. And we did find 2 proposals. One was high, one was crazy high. And the one that the lower of the 2 has since rescinded his offer. He just finds he can't do it at that particular price. I guess is his reason. He really didn't go in detail with me on it. But the only thing I can think of it at this juncture, I know the last time around, this was about 2 years ago, we did have Marvin scrape and paint and put down Oslo, and then put a really good direct to metal paint on them. And it lasted for about a year, maybe a year and a quarter. And we can certainly do the same thing and do it in-house. And, we'll get at minimum a year in it, maybe a year and a half in it. But that's the only thing that I'm thinking of at the moment.
Well, I am not in favor of having, Marvin do it.
Okay.
But they're in bad shape right now. I got a picture of them, and they did out there passing around. And I know that, we have been, talking about what needs to happen with them since May. And there are companies all over Florida that deal specifically with commercial chillers, which is what we have. And I am in favor of talking to the companies and getting some quotes on both maintenance and replacement. We had somebody say in August that they were 6 years old. Would you get that? Confirmed or find out?
Green said 8 years old.
Thank you. Okay.
I have a question here. Is there anything wrong with the chillers itself, or is it just the framework?
I can't tell you that. I do know there were some repair issues already this summer. And I don't know what, that's the only answer I have. And it's inadequate, I really.
Okay.
But I know that we've been talking about it since, May, so that when it cooled off, we can have some answers ready to go, and so,
Because most of the chiller is just framework, it's just angle arms, welding it, holding everything in place, and the chiller itself. I think it's just the honeycomb chiller dripping down. I think that part's fine. It's just, angle irons cheap and it runs it together. Instead of replacing that, we add on to everything. Did you ever get a price on the cost for the on there, Mark?
Sorry, say that again. I
What was the high price that you got, the guy that didn't resent?
believe it was 28,000.
28,000 even.
With the top down box system.
This,
So you're gonna look at that compared to how old the unit is. You know, you gotta look, you kind of look at that.
Absolutely true.
But let's say you get another 3 or 4 years out of the unit, and put the epoxy on, in 3 or 4 years, you're gonna be putting, and then you're gonna end anyway.
and they say there's 7 to 12 year lifespan in salt water, so. It's, you know,
And that's they're about done.
we're in the middle of its lifespan right now.
Which been in Pennsylvania, and we've never replaced them, maybe just a honeycomb in the middle, but we never replaced, mineral oil because we didn't replace them. So,
You can't crack down 20 to 30 years.
That's good, thank you.
Everybody.
For the next meeting, if you have a
Absolutely.
report on this. Life expectancy of the whole system.
Ferrans was supposed to be out here last week. David from Ferrans, the current company that we've been using for maintenance on the chillers. He was supposed to come out. He wanted to do a survey before he quoted us, but he didn't make it last week and he didn't make it the first part of this week. Now, the second company, Dave's over in Orlando, and they plan to be here next week. Pressing on changing out the chillers.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, it's just my own personal opinion, but I don't think this is a job for Marvin.
I understand, and we will cross that off the list.
Just did the research there.
It basically says you aggressively go after the rust, you can get 12, 15 years out of it. So having Marvin do it is not aggressive.
No, that's not.
Everything, or whatever you said.
Yeah, you caught
I'm
that.
not feeling when you
Yeah.
do.
You know, if 20 grand saves us, what are they, 100 grand correct probably? What do they cost?
I really don't know, because these are different as part of a water chilled system,
You probably should know that.
yeah.
As I recall, when they were replaced, it was there was a separate contractor or subcontractor that had to go through. And that was considerably a welding company, and that was a big expense. And then it looks like on the pictures that they showed that the sheet metal itself is going down, at least on the top part.
Yeah,
So you got, you know, and you got the chillers.
I think the framework is in good shape. I don't think there's any issues.
The angle iron framework then is pretty solid.
Yeah,
Well, that's good, because it's a considerable expense to have that custom molded.
Well, that probably should be sandblasted. And,
I don't know why they shouldn't be able to replace a lot of that sheet metal, if they still make those units. Keep the internal parts and replace the sheet metal.
I hate to say this, we've never had leak issues with Freon on those, chillers on the roof.
No,
No, I shouldn't have said that. Usually that we have that, and been below that in the maintenance shops.
Yeah.
But, not top stuff, other than replacing one fan a couple of years ago, that's been it. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna run for another 5 years, so, the pictures speak volumes.
Maybe when that company comes out, you can ask them about the sheet metal and replacing all that, or
Absolutely.
what they suggest.
Yeah.
Inside units.
When Greens did the south. They did both the chillers and the compressors down in the south. They, the history that Cameron gave me is that there was one big unit down in the maintenance shop and they opted to go to two little smaller units and work them in tandem when they needed to be. And when 90%, 85% of the time, they don't need to have both running at the same time, only during the hottest times of the summer. So it led to some efficiencies where instead of consuming electricity to make 60 tons of air conditioning, you're consuming electricity to make 30 tons of air conditioning. So that was pretty strong. But that was a big difference that they did.
I'm thinking the south unit was done probably 9 years ago.
Cameron said 8.
Because it was a couple of years when we moved in. We've been here since 14. So that's 11. And I remember it breaking down. We were here 1 or 2 years for sure. Over here. It has to be right around 8, 9. Probably more than 9.
But those things, maintenance by man hours, like compressors usually go by man hours, like do we have a contract with them that we check out compressors?
What I have with plans is every 4 months they come. We change out what's called the socks, big filters, they stand, this tall, and the cloth, and they go in a canister, and they shut the system down, they change them out. And that's used to get any rust particulates or whatever impurities are in the water. Water comes from the city, as makeup water to it. So we change them out, and then they go through the air codes that are in the south unit. There are not too many air codes, it's not as new in the north. But they took a hard look at them every 4 months.
Yeah, I think you do a good job, like every morning you come around and check all the compressors, the temperatures.
Yeah.
You know, I work in a factory and we have to do that, I did with air compressors and chillers. If we came around with a log and every shift wrote down hours, the machine was running, temperatures, oil gauges, everything on it. You can see when something's starting to go wrong.
Yeah. When we start seeing temperatures above 50 something,
Do a good job. Thank you.
No, that's next. That is next.
in your handouts, you see something like this. It's got a big U on it, first floor. What we did, we of course, we have completed doing the stairwells, the northwest stairwell and the southwest stairwells. And they definitely didn't have any structural issues in them. Definitely had a lot of bad looking cosmetic issues and a lot of wiring issues with the exit. And of course, we completed that project and they look just about as good as new. So the next thing we were looking at was the walkways. And we knew that usually we have some areas where we see the concrete is busted up. Sometimes it's a little hole, sometimes it's a line going all the way across, so you see it's bumped up. Well, one thought was that before we got into this, we needed to know how bad these issues are. And we took a two-way approach to it. One was a method of using a pole, chain, and a ball at the end and you run it back and forth over the concrete. And when the pitch changes, you know you've got generally a hollow spot. Just like when you're walking over tile that has some issues, you notice that the pitch changes when you walk on it, you hear it differently. So this process with the chain and the ball on it is the same thinking. So, when that was done, circles were made, where these hollow spots were seen or heard, but heard. So, now, that seems to be a good method. It sounds kind of, old fashioned, but, understand that they say this works really well. Well, we wanted to take it a step further, and there is a company that does a radar laser study, where they bring like a scanning device, looks into the concrete, and tells you what's going on. And so they did that, and they spent $800 for doing all 6 days. And what this describes is that the circles were made by the company doing the ball and chain method, and what they were doing with the laser, they were verifying what was sounded out. So the laser was every circle with a line on it, they verify that there's an issue. So the correlation between that is like 90%. So we feel like we've got a good representation of where we have issues. The most important thing that kind of came out of the study for $800 is that with the radar study, they're able to determine how deep it is. Like if you've got a total big void underneath or something small. And what the radar study showed is that these were all very shallow and not very big. So what we seem to have come down to is the thought that what we're probably looking at is when originally they poured concrete, and the way they constructed this building, they constructed the slabs down on the ground and then they lifted them up. So as the building went higher, everything moved up one type thing. So once they did that, then they put a coating on where the walkways are, and it gives it that texture instead of being just smooth concrete. So what we believe is what the radar is telling us is that that is starting to separate in places. And that's what we're seeing after 50 years is the separation of this coating from the concrete. So in essence, it kind of says we don't have a big problem. And it would really not make a whole lot of sense to start breaking into this at the moment, since we know these are all very shallow. So I think what it guides us to is that everywhere we're seeing something visual pop up with concrete, seen across the ways, those things we address what we see. And if something materializes down the road, we would address those. But of the 120 items, we only we have about 25 issues that we need to get into and make the walkways look the way they should and prevent any more water getting down into the rebar. So the next step is I'm going to get pricing on replacing these 25 areas that we've seen concrete pop up.
It's not moisture, is it? Water coming in between the coating and the concrete, is it?
I don't know what the cost. Good point. I don't know. I don't know if we can tell if it's well. Let me go back. Start over. The way these occur is that moisture does get down into the rebar. The rebar rusts and expands and pops it. That's the process of what we see. So at some point in time, there had to be a crack or something small that got into it that caused it.
Yeah, they put it in, they put the coating on it too. Once they're good moisture on it, when you put that coating on, that coating will bubble up. And I actually seen it happen, and I took a big needle and put it in the bubble, and water come out of it.
Well, that's the because of where we live. And as far as the moisture, as far as the salt, as far as it finding a path down to the rebar and then expanding out, that's the fight right there.
I recommend you just fixing the visual.
Yeah, my opinion would be, let's conquer what we see. And it's stuff maybe will happen down the road, but there's no. I find it hard to break into something that you can't see and trying to do some type of effective repair.
And I noticed on the drawings, they didn't do the balconies.
No, we didn't do the balconies. I think we'll have to survey them. Probably after this process here, we'll go into balconies. I know there are some units with some balcony issues on rebar. I think we will address that after this.
Okay, thank you.
One question I'd like to know if they said anything about. On some of the walkways, when you walk down the walkway and above you, then it's not a ceiling, but it's there are places where there are bubbles like this there. I showed you some the other day. And then there's other places where those bubbles have ruptured open and there's a big hole in the concrete. Do they have anything to say about that?
That we should address them at the same. You're gonna get something visual. We would get it. So it's not, we're seeing on the one way, but we're seeing.
When is the time frame on this?
We just got this back, invite bids on it here next week. At the top of, new business here, I would like to reach out to 112. We have a unit 112, that have asked the board to put in to ask if they could put in a gate to have direct access, to the courtyard from the gate on the balcony. Now, we have done one of those, but it was done in front of unit 117 where it's all concrete. And, the gate opens up to a concrete area that's underneath the overhang to the, north building. So that was approved by the board and it was done. So 112 is seeing this, but the downside is that it involves having to make a path through the shrubbery that's there. It's in front of 112, it's a pretty landscaped area with shrubs over the entire area in front of this unit here and 112, which is next door. So the board had recommended not approving it because we'd have to break into the hedges, how that would look. He wanted to address the board. He is not here at this time, but I said I could reach out to him by phone if that's okay.
What you number this?
It's 112. Unit next to us is 111. 112 is at the corner, at the very end of the west building, if you will. And the start of the north building is the 14 unit. It's got a really small This is part of the video settlement. Second, I'll give you the phone, my phone back to you. But I just find out it's at the hang on here, I have to do this. I think I sent your husband a Zoom invite, I don't know if you got that or not, but, you are able to, stop there, they'll be back in here in just a minute. Okay, I'll tell you when you're on. Not expecting there to be no legislature. That's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two board members out there, so when they come back in, I'll tell you, and we'll have quiet in here so we can all hear it. So hang in there for just another minute or so. Hey Suzanne, everybody's back and I think you're quiet, so, you have the floor.
So we're looking to. There on the right hand side on the balcony, and then we of course on our expense, we also created a small pathway, so it wouldn't cause too much restriction with the bushes that are currently in front of the balcony.
So are you thinking of a pathway that's, concrete and matches the other pathways?
Well, we're open to suggestions, but we're originally considering, we're originally considering just doing like a small pathway using like either white stones or something in that nature.
Now, if we were to make it of it, you would match our current pathways.
After taking a look at that. I think to keep the uniformity of the entire community, that we should set a standard. If there is going to be a pathway from the patio to the pool or to the walkway around, we should have a standard uniform one that if you have one, this is how you have to do it. No, I understand, and I'm sitting, I just took a look out there, this is the way I'm looking at it. We don't need to have, with all due respect, pavers on one, white stone on another, wood concrete on another. Everybody, to keep the uniformity of the community, we should have it look the same. So I think that the board needs to basically get together and put together a recommendation as to what it should be. And then if people want to do that, to that standard. And we've already got one that's been done, so I think it's our responsibility to share equally for everybody. But it's got to look like it's part of the system. It has to look like a criminal. That's just not him. How about you folks? Anybody have a?
I agree. I think that it made a good point. Once it's been done, it's not a concrete. I'm sorry. Right. I really like that. Everything. And the landscape, we need to get that. I think it's a common area. Common area. And, I don't think that. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just.
Oh, yes.
Ultimate opinion, they're on the first floor, which, arguably is going to come over beyond. You're facing flood, you're facing all kinds of things, but anything that helps them improve property values, also the building improve property value. And, I've had kids and have rented hotels on the first floor deliberately because it gives me access to the pool. So it would really increase the value of those first floor units if we did it in a way that, makes them look. That's right, so that's what you have to, that's what, I think that's what it's recommending, right, is to make it standard, yeah, come up with a standard.
Yeah, we're only be looking to remove that one smaller, one truck, but otherwise all other trucks in front of our balcony would still remain the same. It was still be there.
Okay, but my suggestion was gonna be that whatever it is, whether it's a 2.5 or a 3 foot wide path, that amount of shrub you got would be removed, but then the path would be the same no matter where. And I'm not saying that's gonna happen because it's not, we don't have total agreement on this at this point in time. It's all up for discussion. Each individual owner that wants to have an access from their patio to the walkway around this. Will have,
The condos have paying for it.
no, just to be that.
We're moving into this.
How many gentlemen quickly said, and we're having that increase of the cost of homes, it goes over that people that have happened. To say, people are working at it, it's really unfair, not to look out for us going at it with rules.
Right, but also remember too, that was one that opens directly to concrete at this point in time. There wasn't no shrubberies to go cut through. I understand, and I'm trying to feel like, I'd like her to be able to do what she wants to do, but I think it has to be set to a standard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And it looks pretty, it's done right. Yeah, it's not a big deal. And I think it at least is, you know, and make sure the bottom here is set for desire.
That's. No, that's.
So what was the reason why they needed to do that? Because they had to walk down the stairs, out the door. Like on the back of us, on this square, so.
No, it's not steps, they live on the first floor. So actually, outside the door here, there are shrubs that go all the way around, or they stop at certain points in the smaller one. They just want to have access to come out their sliding door, right out of their living room into the courtyard.
What the access. Opening out into, you know, the common area we're open into our boundary. But of course, you know, we definitely wanna go by what everybody's saying in regards to the look, especially that pathway, so everything is consistent with the rest of the condo and the common area. And of course, everything would be paid out of our package, not with the condo, you know, the condo association. So when everybody decided we want to talk, you know, we would look from the community towards the, you know, the common area, we 100% agree, and you know, to go by what the recommendation is.
And I just want you to know how delightful it is to have somebody willing to be so accommodating that you're scoring points. Yeah.
Now, at the same time.
Yeah, because one of the dangers that they have first floor is kids going out onto the driveway where the cars are pulling around and they're running around to get to the pool. You don't have, they're coming through doors, so they come down the elevator. So there is that, like, I don't know what's like, but I think we're at the elevator.
Yes.
If it's uniform, if it's all gonna be this turquoise color, in the north, and who's going to maintain it? Everybody pays for the initial cut through and the cement or whatever it is you all decide. Who's going to maintain it? Is that gonna be on the condo, or is that gonna be on every unit owner? Right? It's more clear moving forward. What is going to be expensive moving forward. They're gonna be for the initial cut through and the individual cement. But then is it going to be painted? Are we responsible, we the condo, responsible for keeping that up after that?
Trying to be like King Solomon and lay things in. I'm thinking we're going to have less shrubbery for the maintenance people. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna be taking out shrubbery from each and every one of these that would do it. So there's less to trim, less to do that, you know, less bug spray, less weed, less trimming. And then when it comes to power spraying, I mean, we don't paint these places all that often, but the power spraying is, so what, so they're doing the balcony anyway, now you're gonna do an additional, what, 5 foot by 3 foot section power spray? I don't think that's an issue.
One thing about condo living.
Or is it was asked to do that?
That's, okay. What she's saying is, she thinks it would be easier access when they're power spraying the her balcony, because right now you have to go through the house to get to the balcony to clean it off. Right, I understand. Yes, you were saying.
Condo living is based on uniformity.
Right.
And to put a gate over there and a gate here and a gate over there, I think if you're going to put a gate on her door, then it has to be uniform. You can't just put one here and one there and one over there. That's not uniformity of a condo.
And I'm not. Here's the one over here. You really can't even tell that it's not part of the fence, like, because that was one of the things we specified. It has to have, all kinds of child protection, latches and locks on it. And it has to conform with the fence that's outside of all the other patios. So we did make sure of that in the first condition.
Fence, it's the walkway. You've got a walkway coming out here, you've got a walkway coming out.
Exactly.
That one didn't involve a walkway.
Correct.
That's what you said.
I would also like them to be restricted on the bottom.
Well, you know, because, here's the thing, you want them to be responsible for your maintenance. The maintenance is what, an occasional painting, maybe every other or third year. However, right now, the maintenance is taking care of the lawn and the shrubs in front of that. So we don't make them be responsible for that. It's actually possibly even less to have to power it. Power spraying is
I
painted.
really think that the landscapers are coming
Look at that. I think the pool and the engineering should work on the look at that. Instead of the doctor and work like that.
Holly, you want to slide out to the pool?
Okay, fine.
Jerry wants to slide up the balcony to.
So
Yeah.
Suzanne, you could, give us some time to, discuss it with the board, see what we need to come up with as far as the membership. And, we'll be glad to, do our best to come up with some answers for you.
Okay, so should be hearing back.
I'll get that.
Mark said he takes responsibility for that, so. Thank you. But.
Holly, you got something wrong?
Yeah, reset the timer for another hour. Put it in the order in the machine. Did you guys gonna make a motion about this or just table it for the moment? or-
I move we table the motion, I mean, I table the issue and, defer to an executive board meeting or something where we have further discussion about it. And if anybody, yes,
I just was suggesting that the board might consider when they have an issue like this, it's going to change the landscape of the courtyard. That maybe have an advisory vote for them, potentially annual meeting, just because it doesn't, He's finding on the board, but at least an advisory votes to know where people stand.
And I would invite everybody here, just if you can put it in writing, because I can't remember what I ate for lunch, so if you tell me, I'm not going to remember. But the thing is, if you have pro or con on the issue, just submit it to the board or give it to Mark so that we can look at what people's, points of view are from both sides. Because not everybody is in agreement right now, but we respect everybody's opinion. So let's just do that. If you want to submit something, give it to Mark within the next week or so. And it will certainly be considered in our discussion. And I think that I think that you may have a very good point, and that meeting is only in a couple of months. It's strictly. Okay. Thank you.
So if it's passed, they'll easily have it all done in time to get back on the board.
Right, nice, yeah, so.
So,
Motion to table
Yes.
made by, Scott,
all in favor?
I-
Aye.
who seconded? I'm sorry. Joined. Tabled, thank you.
Okay, next on this, not quite endless list, is a mold study. I requested that, Mark find out some information for us regarding, mold testing and mold, what do you call that, remediation? Because of the leaks that we have. We got, a new roof. And we still have water, so I'm very concerned about mold. Does anyone have to talk about, what you have found with the mold assessment?
Certainly, as Joy mentioned, she voiced concerns. And when you step back and look at it for a minute, we have a building that's 51 years old. It's been through numbers of roofs, I'm sure. There's been issues where you've had units flooded out over the years for whatever reason it happens, water heaters, floods of bathtubs and showers, things like that. There's been a whole lot of things that have occurred over our lifespan. And so when she brought this up, it started getting me thinking too that something like this makes sense. I mean, normally when you have some type of flood issue, those units are looked at and some samples are done, and they're all done. They take moisture studies, and then decide it's time to pull out the dehumidifiers and fans. But taking this as an approach of the entire building, the first proposal manufactured is 51,000, so we'll just lay that one to the side. And the second one, he's come in at doing the sample per unit. He thinks that can fit inside of the square foot requirements. And he comes down to one indoor air sample per unit, and then an outside control test. So that's 128 units times $100 to 12,800. Plus the outdoor sample is 13,250. So that's a number a whole lot better than last year, 1,006. So it's really something to consider. And I really haven't spoken too much more with Joanne about it, but maybe it becomes an individual owner's type responsibility of doing it or participating in it. not the association. It definitely is a good idea. You know, to yourself with people's allergies and issues, and some people are more sensitive than others. And it is a topic of things being concerned of. Indoor air quality is very important. If it's something that the association partners with the owners on, and it's 50-50, or you know, whatever seems to make sense. But the premise is a good one.
Yeah, it's a little really like one that's been over, it's made one that's been a model. And I don't pay usually in policies on every year to get it. I don't actually, you have it 100 year, 200 year, 300 year, 100 year, I don't know, some that I don't know right now about it. I'm not testing. This is kind of thing, if we open up the can of worms and it's the board has your building for mold. And you start hiding mold, and you start telling these owners, we're gonna expect the board to fix the mold. And then you're gonna be paying more costs. You're opening up a can of worms.
But you must say though, that in our documents, what's inside of your unit is your responsibility.
The board should be.
Whether it's mold or if it's burn. Okay. Not, you're correct.
Mold outside your wall, if you want your apartment to see mold, then you should, and usually get that taken care of.
You should spend $200 and get the.
Yes. You start with the board cleaning it, you're gonna open it up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but set up a mold kit for $10. $100. I don't know what the intensity of it. It's like $10. You don't have to spend 100.
When I first got, and I ain't got a bit of water now.
I don't think I'm in our house, but anyway, with being said, you have maybe some of your said that. Like I said, you don't have to spend that much money to get a test. Come keep it up for $10. Yeah,
And I really, I'm assuming that anybody who sees anything that looks like it might be mold inside their unit is gonna get on that shit fast. But, what my concern is like how I said, water inside the walls. We don't have any control over that. We don't have any way of knowing how much it is or it isn't there.
If you're concerned about it, you are doing that. And it should be your responsibility.
My boss, if they do, I'm getting all involved, we still have to be involved, and we got to mark that, and you gotta fix it. That's it.
Right, and I've never seen any mold inside my unit, but
When they lived in Buffalo, they passed a rule and everybody had to have radon testing done.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't tell everybody that if you came across it, you basically had to kind of write up on how to do it. So this is feeling a little bit brotherish with this one, so I get a $10 test and.
okay, everyone.
Timothy will sell them for $20.
I don't even get a discount, but I hope you got enough then. You know always how many people come in there for them, there's a million, whatever there are now. And I tell you, they're only $10. You know, it's 100. We're looking for it. Get your ducks clean, like somebody said back here in the room. And get the ducks clean if you're not worried about them. There's on you. You never feel fine. I bet you don't hold it in your tongue.
interested in that. So it's gonna be victory on everything. But then you have to vote on that, or we just determine that?
This was just this kind of.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, blacktop. In the, well, I mean, just from, yeah, the last one is what? Being completed, right?
Yes, one of the concerns that came out during the two first hurricanes while I've been here, that were, what, 3 years ago? Yeah, about 3 years ago. And one of the weak spots that we determined was, since during these hurricanes / volunteer evacuations, is that we are unable to close the building down, and lock things down. So we have to keep the storefront glass doors that are every elevator lobby unlocked. And issues that we had during the first set of storms 3 years ago was that we were losing storefront glass doors that would fail because of the winds. As the winds would change from coming from the south to the east and then from the north, as the storms went around us, that differentials in air pressure would cause doors to open, doors to close. But we lost 6 doors during the first set of storms. I forget the name of it. And then basically that was about $1,000 a piece on losing those doors. So as first step, we put latches on the doors to the north building. And then the following year, we decided to do more. We were going to do the south. We started doing the south. And it just made real sense to go ahead and do the west. So we ended up, in our last effort, we did the south and the west. So that project is complete. And we've got solid closure on those, and whenever storms go by us, the winds, and even some thunderstorms that are bad on wind and rain, we now have doors that won't blow open and stay open, that water, wind in, and everything else that can do damage to it. So that project is complete. Yeah, I think so too. They didn't break the window. That was our lawn person that the weed eater kicked up the rock and hit the glass and pushed it shattered into many pieces. They're paying for it 100%, and they're hoping that the glass is here Friday. And we can get this plywood off the door.
Okay, the parking lot, pavement, the parking lot.
Actually, we do have 3 bids, but there's only 2 in your in the copies that I made. The third proposal that became corrupted in my computer, but the price was 14,000, so it was the highest number anyway. So it's completely out of the picture. So we've got 2 proposals. The one here from All Manifold Services, and then the alternative. The service is under options to go midway down on the proposal, and an additional $2,000, they squeegee in the first coat steel. So what they do is they pour down the product and then squeegee it along the well cup. So it's getting into every nick, cranny, and as far as trying to seal things up. That's the first coat we put down, and then the second coat is the one that's sprayed down. So that ends up being a little over $10,000, 10,300 if you will. No, 10,350. So in comparison to the alternative, and it's basically it's just a spray down product.
I make a motion that we go forward with All Asphalt Service Company, the squeegee, with adding the squeegee of $2,080, which makes that 10,335. Yes.
You just going to put a trough in here that we used to have to get rid of the water out back here.
Drain or something?
We, right out here, you know where the trough is, you can see it. It was like this wide. And when it rained, the water would go from one side all the way and drain out into the green in front of the building. Now, when I look in my garage, I have a 6 inches of water to walk through.
I do hear what you're saying, I do. The proposal that we're talking about is not for changing the blacktop layout or pictures or anything, it's just feeling what we have.
Yeah, that's something different that we'd have to look at. This is just sealing the parking lot, so the parking lot lasts longer than, you know, so we don't have to start breaking up. And that would be, a heavy bill to repave the whole parking lot. So that, this is more of a sealer.
Since we seem to be leaning to the all asphalt, his plan is he would do it in 2 days. So, we'd close down half on day one, we would have parking in our unofficial overflow lot on the north side. That is lit, and we do have some recording equipment looking at what goes on in that lot. So on the day that we do one section, people would have to park in the other or remain in their garages for probably a day or so. And then when that's done and dry and drivable, then we switch gears to the other side. So this proposal is trying to do it in 2 passes, one half and one half.
Sir, question.
Sure.
When you say it's way down type of thing, to me, I want to make sure that we're not putting a Band-Aid on an open artery. Do we have cracks or divots? I remember just a couple of years ago, we had a big problem over here on this, in this parking lot back, something blew up and we had sand in the park. Do you remember when we put on the the parking lot itself got blown out. It's not the water pipes, it's right in the stack.
I think that was before me. I don't remember that.
So, is any, are we going to have them fill any cracks or divots or anything like that?
Well,
With rain, it's not, everything's not as bad.
Well, this is the, this proposal with the additional option of squeezing the first coat. It is a way of getting into every crook and cranny.
How about the entry to each and every driveway here, garage with the doors down? And you open them up and turn down right up to the lip. Like it is now.
Is blacktop inside of the, you caught me on something I've never really looked at. Does blacktop come inside the garage?
Yeah, our garages are black.
And you open it up?
I mean, it's only a matter of
Yeah.
a few inches.
If it's blacktop, people do see it. Absolutely. That's a very good idea. Thank you for pointing that out.
You're right about the, I mean, cracks, like in the front by the doorways, if you trip over it, there, the cracks are actually sticking out of the ground.
That's
Right to the down or?
We're putting it in frame, but if we're gonna make it like that, then I'll work with them to fix them.
I want it to be patched before we spray and cover. I've got that, it's got this.
Well, maybe we need to walk around and decide which ones we're gonna do, like you're saying, on the
It's
videos.
across.
It's clarified, you see whether your laptop will be down in the garages, or you just put it over the garage doors and stuff, because you have an extra 10 bucks money. Service for each garage.
Oh, I'm not just.
So they're asphalt too.
Yeah, I think he's saying.
Yeah, just, yeah, yeah, if there's blacktop under the door or the first couple inches inside the garage, yeah, we wanna do that. I mean, part of the whole process is sealing is you gotta get it all, yeah.
So I have a question that's probably not too relevant since we're talking about all asphalt services. And I do see on here that they repaint the lines.
Yes,
The other one, I don't see anything on here about that.
he does, that doesn't have it on, I mean, he told me he does. This quote for 12,000 for the city.
We, I would find a proposal where it states that it's on the.
The second, I went up back up in the years, they're not squeegee, they're just right.
What, the second one?
Second one's over, right.
So you're saying the one that does, they're both gonna basically use the same top, correct? Yeah, okay. And the one that's gonna cost less is the one that's gonna squeegee in and fill the spaces.
And paint?
For 4,000 less?
Yeah, but the one difference is, the alternative company does say 1,500 feet of track fill, so they're going out of their way to build this track to get on the entrances. So I'm wondering if that's the difference. That's 1,800 bucks for practice. But to your point, the repairs that need to be done, so we're saying you're doing it.
I'm not sure the squeegee first coat is gonna fill in.
Yeah. I wonder if that's. When you have the other guy to do this, but he's staying under.
I need to ask, I can't get an answer to that. That seems the rate.
Can you take a couple of pictures? And send them the pictures and say, will this be included?
Okay, I can do that. And,
Specifically mark where they are, it's like the north, entrance by the pool. You want to have, like, if you're going to the doctor's or dentist office, or whatever.
okay,
You're actually sticking up the track that actually get rolled up. You know, so it's pretty serious.
may I make this suggestion? I'll reach out to the alternative. And about this 1,500 feet of crack fill, and I will reach out to all our staff about, is crack fill better or not better than squeezing? I'll let you know the results of those conversations. And I will ask the question about.
I suggest not telling the guy that, I wouldn't not tell the other guy 1,500 feet is covered on it. Let him see what needs to be done and determine whether or not he's going to do as a current client.
Here, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, you keep our cards close to our chest.
The alternative, if they're planning to paint, it doesn't say anything about.
I'm sure it's in there, but I will ask him. And I will send this out to you as quick as I can.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, this was already an approved item by the board a while back. Now it's just a matter of picking out. Which one.
Yeah.
Yes, so I will get back to the.
Okay. And, flood insurance. Take your time, you gotta write something, so I went,
Especially they always, first off, even though it says the hearts are on here, they're the agent, if you will, but, it's the same nationwide flood program that's offered. The rates are pretty well set. There's not any real differences between companies. But they do give you some options. And, if you wanted to, on the first one, I'm sorry, I gotta go around. First one is garages. So the flood policy for the garages, um, option A and option B, there's a difference of about $130. But the difference is that the increased coverage for building goes up to 330. And the contents will go to 111, 117. The building stays the same. The deductibles stay the same for building contents, but the difference between them is only like it's at $135.
I have a question with the garage. If the garage is filled with a unit, would the homeowners cover that, the individual homeowners?
Contents. Mr. Contents.
The flooding was gonna affect the garage, is there a door, whether they contents? What would it affect?
You know, your homeowners can cover the contents and if you have something in there, a storage cabinet or maybe toolbox or something like that.
And what's the content thing for that? What would that, what will we be paying for it?
Structure.
Just if there's actually a flood, like flooding isn't covered by your homeowners insurance. Flooding itself, damage to the walls, and I know it's a lot of cement, but you've got electric running through there and all. Flood is not covered by your homeowners. That's why even in a non-flood zone, if you're not in a flood zone,
Well, would it be up to the owner to have flood insurance or only?
It's,
Yeah, but the only other thing, look at it, say it flooded, it would flood the laundry room, the chillers, all that electric. So, I mean, you can't say, okay, I'm gonna take out this piece because they're doing the whole building. I think that's right, if you're doing the whole building.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
so the garages, it says building, and it says building on 1/4 the buildings. We have 3 separate buildings here. For all intents and purposes, we have one garage. One solid unit. My question is, current coverage, $10,000, is that for all of the garages combined? You're not telling me this.
No, they're-
10,000 per garage?
The first one's the garage. In the handout. The,
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is $10,000, does that cover?
I think it's 300,000. You look on page, go back one page, give me.
Sorry.
So the garage is the one, my reading straight is 300,000. And 11,000 out there.
yeah, the second one is not defined right, and I apologize for that. The second one is the critical house.
Okay, thank you.
So the first one's the garage, the second one for the cooling. That's what that is. Well, that's the reason for the low value. It's just,
Does that cover our chillers?
well, if you,
If we get flooded out?
yeah, the way,
You need to start a contract.
yeah,
Let's say, oh my.
the way flood works is that when there is an event, they look at what is the high water mark during that event. Normally, you can easily tell it by what marks are left on sheetrock, wood, or whatever. So everything below that line becomes a claim against flood, and everything above that line goes to wind. Wind driven rain, wind coverage. So basically, that's the D mark of who covers what.
So the chillers are covered for $38,000.
Well, the chillers. Correct, yes, but the chillers on the roof would not cover. If we have that kind of run, you'd be in trouble. Human sense, there's no covering. Yeah,
That's pretty responsive.
yeah,
These numbers, they're covering like the laundry room.
yes,
The convection is.
yeah,
The rest is the meter.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, what is our current rate?
The renewal is at the same price. The lower number is what we paid last year, and they're giving you an option for increased coverage.
So the question, is that annual or monthly?
The building.
We had a flood here. And this area got soaked, drenched. If the walls would have to be taken out, and all that. Yeah. But if it's doing it here, it's also gonna probably do it in this north and the south.
Yeah.
The time of water gets back here. Is it $36,000? It says contents. That's the chairs, the tables, yes.
Yeah.
All right, 25.9 is the wall. Is it per building or is this?
And it's the whole building. That number is for the whole building.
So the question is, I'm not looking to push it for when I'd like to have a better understanding. If we do that. Well, I don't know, it's, never mind, I'll just get people this. I should be like, Since contents are covered for more than the building, and my concern is these walls. These are sheetrock and stuff. This is all gonna have to be taken out, replaced.
You're just saying the building is 25 million and the contents is 36. So we can put money money for the walls.
Okay.
What do you think? I don't know.
That's what actually, the assessment of the building was only 20. Okay.
Yeah.
See?
I
said, I said before.
Tables, chairs.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I will, yeah, the deductible $2,000. Okay. I can get better definitions for you. We do need to kind of decide, because I've got to write a check to be there before, first of next month, November first.
The same as last year.
Yeah,
I'm going to accept the bill.
at the current coverage or increased coverage?
One of them is $6 more.
Yeah.
Okay, the other, the increased coverage.
The increased coverage.
I move we accept the increased coverage.
I like the way you guys split it. Okay, so, Wayne made the proposal, I'm sorry, I got it. So Wayne made the proposal, and John seconded. And the votes were all in favor?
Yes. We can afford that.
It says that the policy expires on October 6th.
No, we got a 30-day grace period.
So you're gonna get 30 days late.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've already told them that this is gonna be discussed at tonight's meeting, and we're gonna check them on.
Okay.
Now, move down to the building. They use.
People are discussing how to say, can we wanna keep going? Percentages. Generally, banks have a cap on what percentage of units can be rented before they start giving potential buyers a lot of lift about if we can't do this. So, Mark said that he has frequently put down on paperwork that we're at 25% rent. And has not had an issue with that. However, at the moment, we have, what did we have, 31?
Yeah, we're over 25, 20,
I think we counted 33.
yeah. Backtrack, for some of them, we're not rented at the moment, so it's just 29 or 30.
Okay. So if we have 30 units, that is what percentage? Nice. Right, so, do we need to have our rentals for a while until they go down? Do we not? Do we need to do nothing? If we need to do something, what is recommended that we do?
I thought we already had a mechanism in place that if you sell your unit, you have to live in it for a year or own it for a year before you can rent it out. So I remember.
And that is correct, and we abide by that rule, but even with that rule, there's been people who meet the requirements, and instead of living in a unit, they're putting up the rent, so it has more events than we had before.
They're putting it up for rent before the year is up.
No, they're abiding by the rules that you cannot rent for the first year.
The whole history on there is that we were, at the point in time that when that, and it was a condo vote, so it's in the documents about the 1 year before you could. We did that because we were in the high thirties at that point in time with rentals. And I think at that time, the rule of thumb with the mortgage companies was 40%. And if you got to 40%, they would only give commercial mortgages to anybody who wanted to buy it. So that rule was put in, and initially it's done a pretty good job of keeping them down, but it seems like they're creeping back up again. So they might needs to look at other alternatives if there are.
I think the mortgage issue is if you go back to a mortgage for a condo, as a primary residence, but there's more than 25%. It's what you're talking about. They won't give you the mortgage.
The point in time when we looked into it before, they were giving mortgages, particularly commercial mortgage.
Yeah.
Not a homeowner's mortgage, which is, a little different.
We made a few calls, and we called our bank. So,
What if you have investors that are buying units to rent them?
It's not allowed. They have to own for a year.
They could buy it, but they'd have to set for a year before they could have a person come in and rent.
And I don't know if this was anything that's happening here or not, but I know that across the state of Florida, a lot of homeowners are choosing to rent out their places rather than reduce the sales price because things aren't moving. So I don't, like I said, I have no idea if that's happening here or not, but it could help explain how we're starting to creep up some.
Maybe made it 35%, some other banks are 50%. But the problem's gonna be, people that are trying to get first time ownership or anything like that, it's going to be 30%. It's like this moment, so it isn't, could be an issue.
I would like to bring up the point that as a homeowner, somebody who does live here, I'm not really in favor of having a massive amount of rentals. Say the Holiday Inn. So honestly, in our rules, we currently have a cap. No cap.
I'm not sure it's legal. You might have to get some legal credit and opinion on that, on what we could do, what we could do, or Mark could check into it through this. Some sort of call.
And here's the other question, can we put a cap as a percentage of rentals of the entire organization? Yes, ma'am.
There's always, everybody in here went to has it always been that they were able to rent, or did you always have to own? What did that change? Like,
Wait, Pat, you said you stay at 55 and under, can you report?
yeah, I'm just asking your students that they used to not have renters and it used to be at 55 and over.
Well, we had this discussion and debate about 2 years ago.
Because there's a lot of changes, like, I don't even know, either 100% I don't even know.
No, the issue, here's the issue. Issue about the 55 and older. One of those that was proposed previously, and probably one of the few benefits available to that is you do not get charged the millage in your property taxes that go to paying for the schools. So you say, well, you know, my kids went to school, and I go, well, you know what? We got a school right behind us. And, you know, it's like taking care of the neighborhood.
Okay.
But the problem with 55 and older is, my son is 38 years old. And if I die, he inherits, now, my wife and I are gone. My son inherits it, but I can't live here.
I think we jumped around. We're not supposed to be on talking about 55 now. We were talking about the rental house, right? And the rental problem, basically, I just looked it up. It is perfectly legal for a AAA to set a cap on the number of rentals inside.
Thank God for ChatGPT.
I don't know. I just put it to the Florida legal. It's this.
Put in so that you have renters, because you did have take care of the property, and flush things down the toilet, there's certain grounds, certain kitchen things.
We'll get a legal opinion, you guys can do that, we'll bring it back. So if you did something like that, you would set a cap, but you then do a waiting list. So if you're old, you get too close to the cap, people want to rent the place, you just sign them up. You're
Right. Somebody gets a transfer or wants to leave somewhere, they don't want to sell their place, they just can't rent it out until it's. Hopefully it doesn't be a turning house.
Yeah.
Two-thirds. We'll send that out. Do what's best for the small community.
I will get up with Holland and get back to you.
Thank you. What else?
How often to have the meetings? We, at one point we were having like every, well, now this year, and it seemed to be an uncomfortably high amount for a lot of people. But before that, we typically used to have meetings every 3 months or so. And it was that, just my opinion, it seems like it was too far apart, because by the time we brought up a topic, we discussed it, we did some research, 3 months later, we would have another meeting, more questions maybe we could vote on it, but maybe not. By the time we got anything done, it was the next year almost. So, I,
It's flexible.
well, that's absolutely, it's flexible. But we like to set a date. You know, like at the end of the meeting, we want to know approximately how long till the next time. Even if it's not a specific date, like how long do we want to wait? We don't have to know that, but I'm thinking it might be nice.
3 months is too long, 1 month is too short, I've got every 6 weeks.
That works for me.
And if we have to do a special meeting, we can add one. We've got nothing to tell you in 6 weeks, we're gonna tell you go play golf.
We tried to do like last year, where we're gonna know our fees for next year by the end.
By the end of this year.
Or that.
It's like an extra little bit for people that want the gates on the first floor.
So,
Yeah, well, we obviously shouldn't wait 6 weeks for that, I think, yeah, we'll just have to discuss it and come up with something. It's a split vote. I was serious, please give us your opinions with regards to those pathways, it's important.
absolutely.
As far as voting with the renters, Rick, previous president, the simple majority change our document. The more renters we have, they're on one side, we're on the other.
They don't,
No, they don't.
Yeah, but you want to.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome. We love doing research, you know.
all right, so, approximately 6 weeks, which would be, early in December, 1st of December. So, is there any preliminary discussion?
We'll need to play around with that a little bit, because,
Give or take.
because we're gonna need to do our annual meeting in December,
Yeah,
and then approve our budget in December, so like we did this year, it's only knows what they paid before January 1st. Right, so
I would think, yeah,
we need
might change that until after the
backtrack with the notices, so,
first of the year.
you said second.
Or I would just keep it the way it is. Still,
Well, I think that
you need to.
that makes sense, let's shoot that as a target for our annual meeting.
I think you just keep it the way it is, we've been doing it monthly until the annual meeting. When the
Just
new
so we
board
have to-
starts out. I think that's a decision for the new board,
okay.
what do we have to send out?
We gotta start working on the calendar for that. And then,
I roll off the board.
well, it's about time.
Drilling. The 19th of November is good for me, if you guys want to meet.
Well, if we met on the 19th of November, we have to meet again in December.
Well, we have to anyway, have other hand.
So should we have a meeting before then?
Yeah, 19th of November, what's nice. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. So 19th of,
We should have
November.
answers to the roof stuff, because all that stuff and
Yep.
the shafts should be fixed by then.
And if we could get a lot of stuff done and out of the way before our annual meeting in December, that'll make that meeting much easier too. Okay.
So week before Thanksgiving, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Two Wednesdays before.
Any good welfare? Anybody have anything to add?
How's downstairs wall doing?
Yeah. I move. Good job.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Bye,
Thank
Rick.
you all.
Thank you for your.